Happenings podcast is brought to you by Sustainable HR PEO and Colath CPA, a local professional service firm supporting Madison businesses and nonprofits just like DMI with their various back of office needs. The firm aims to provide high quality professional services and be true business partners to small and mid-market employers. If you're interested in accounting, tax advisory, HR, payroll, and benefits administration, Sustainable HR PEO and Colath are local providers who are committed to serving Madison and the downtown community. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Downtown Madison Happenings podcast. I'm your host, Jason Elsher, president of Downtown Madison, Inc. And today we have Cathy River, she describes herself as the fearless leader and owner of the Madison Brain Center. Cathy, how are you doing today?
Really great. Thank you for having me.
I love it. Why do you call yourself the fearless leader?
Because it's a movement. I describe neurofeedback as creating miracles in people's lives, but there's not a lot of vocabulary or words or talk about it in the mainstream. And so people don't have places to anchor in, oh, what's that? Or it's like, in the horse and carriage day talking about the automobile, how did you describe it? And what did people say if they hadn't seen one? And yet neurofeedback's been around since the 70s. And it's an awesome tool to use to train your brain and affect your whole life exponentially. And so I'm the leader of trying to get it in, because everybody who does neurofeedback is mostly trying to get insurance paid for or do a lot of other things. And in our society, mental health movements and movements that have happened to help the poor or the hungry or things like that have come from churches or from within the communities. And then social services have taken them on. And anytime you're having big community projects, you need a fearless leader to keep going through the mud and the muck and the ups and downs and just keep holding the vision. And so I'm that person.
You said it in the beginning, revolutions can take time, right? And you need a fearless leader to continue to plow forward. Tell us more about the Madison Brain Center. What is the work that's happening, and then what do you all do?
We do, again, neurofeedback. So neurofeedback is biofeedback for the brain. People may be familiar with biofeedback as a tool for, using your blood pressure, your respiration rates, your skin temperature, and your pulse, okay? And if you can consciously monitor those, you can relax, reduce stress. But that doesn't necessarily biofeedback for the brain. You can't just monitor with your conscious mind and affect the brainwaves very well. And so you have to use a tool that shows the brain what it's doing, or do something at the brain speed, like 1/30th or 1/50th of a second. And so the brainwaves are responsible for a lot of our daily activities that we do, or how we are present for our daily activities. Okay, so, and what we do then is we teach your brain how to use your brainwaves more effectively. And then we keep reinforcing that for multiple times so it really learns better how to use it. So it's a tool the brain has. And when the brain can use its brainwaves more effectively, you sleep better. ADD and ADHD symptoms can be reduced to 85% or better. Relaxation, stress, anxiety, OCD. I work a lot with head injuries, concussions, behavior problem teenagers, behavior problem spouses. One interesting thing when I work on a parent, and that a lot of times the kids will say, mom and dad don't yell at the drivers anymore on the belt line. They keep their cool better, as like a consistent thing, So you get better emotional management, a lot better. You get, sometimes people have especially a lot of people who belong to, downtown Madison have a hard time sometimes saying no and keeping their priorities, and they can overcommit. And many times when you do neurofeedback, you stop overcommitting and you find different ways of doing things or setting your own boundaries easily or effortlessly. Things still get done, but you aren't doing it all. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody in DMI, but
Well, I would say it sounds very familiar to me. I've been known to overcommit, so that I feel like this has become a very personal therapy session right here in live and in person here. But it's interesting you say, I mean, look, I don't know, I know some about what you do, obviously, but coming from a neophyte, right, that doesn't understand, it sounds like you're almost training a muscle, right? Like sports and things like that to say, how do I react better? How can I handle these situations better? I mean, the brain can be trained. Is that a simple way to look at it?
it is it if you're looking at it, if you're training a muscle, you're making neural networks, you're creating neural networks. Plus, if you're training your muscle, many times you have to show it in a certain way that it's not doing something right. Like you go get a coach. There's coaches for runners that say, look, I want you now to roll your feet maybe to the left or right and run that way because you have too far a roll to the right. And you have no idea you're doing that. So a lot of it is based on showing your brain what it doesn't know it's doing. Okay. And so just a second once. There you go. And we do it very elegantly because you get to watch a TV screen going light or dark or big or little at 1/30th of a second to your brainwaves. Now, brainwaves can be very particular. Would you like to know a little about them to help put this into perspective, or should we go to a different question?
No, absolutely. We want to know more. Absolutely.
So can I use that example of overcommitting a little bit?
Honestly, Cathy, I'm your leash. I am your example.
So in overcommitting, a lot of times in the moment of saying no or let me think about this, we could be disappointing somebody. We project that out, and that could produce a little bit of anxiety with us. So it's easier to say yes and squelch that anxiety and deal with it when we're trying to do 3 million things at once, 6 hours later or 12 hours later. Does that make sense?
Yes, that would be my day today. Yes.
Okay. And when the anxiety gets bigger, the brain starts shutting down and it's harder to think. But the brain doesn't know it because the brain is going, my job is to just make everything normal and go on. And it came about from a couple thousand years ago when, whenever there were marauding tigers and you went out of a cave, if something happened, your brain just had to go, it's okay, I've got this, so that it could go out again the next day and get food. Okay. And we do that emotionally too. If this gets bad, I'll deal with it later. And then when it gets bad, you go, oh, it's not that bad. I can deal with it later. So we do it with both our conscious mind and our brain neurophysiology to keep us safe. But the brain waves that are running the brain, delta is really slow. It's like 0 to 4 millihertz per second. And a lot of your brain is in delta if it's in a coma. When they put you into surgery and give you a lot of anesthesia, they're taking your brain down to almost dead. No brainwave, very little brainwave activity. So you're in mostly delta. If you're brain dead, you have no brainwave activity. Okay. And deltas use a lot in the sleep cycle. Now, every part of our lives, when we're awake or asleep, we have a little bit going on of the brainwaves we aren't really using at that time for whatever reason. They may be helping balance, or like a symphony orchestra. Theta is 4 to 8 millicycles per second, and its big job is to go in cycles with delta to go high and low and high and low. And in theta sleep, we get rid of the toxins in our body, our muscles recover, and we recharge. So the delta and theta are really important for our physiology to have fun the next day, okay, and to work well. Then alpha is 8 to 12 millicycles per second, and that's like sitting around watching TV like that or doing something, but it's a big transitional state too. You go from sleep to wake up. You put more of your brain in these faster brainwave activities, the alpha, and then you start waking up and get more beta and purge more beta. Or same going down to sleep. But if most of your brain is stuck in alpha or theta, it's real hard if you're awake to stay focused. Or if you're supposed to have a lot of delta and theta while you're sleeping, but you have too much alpha or beta, you don't go into deep sleep. And it's easy to wake up. Or, I'm at that age where if you get up to go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times a night, if your brain waves are stuck in high gear or not enough low gear or whatever, you could just walking to the bathroom can wake you right up. And then the higher betas can take over and like make you keep thinking about things. Versus what you really want is just sort of barely wake up, have mostly theta with a little alpha, and just make it to the bathroom and go back to bed and just sort of get back in your bed and just go like that. That's the way the brain is supposed to work. But if you've got too much of the betas, and alpha does a lot of other things, but just for our general purposes here, okay? Then you've got slow beta or SMR beta, which a lot of times is right in the middle of your head and your neocortex. And there's all these the areas of the brain where your intelligent levels do reading, writing, and those are the areas that are stimulating neocortex. But that's 12 to 15 millicycles per second. And you use that a lot in thinking. You use that a lot in working. And then you have beta that's 13 to 15 cycles per second. And that's the same thing. And so your two main ones when you're asleep are delta and theta. And your two main ones when you're awake are the slow beta and beta, with a little more high beta, a little alpha, and a little theta. If you're studying a lot, you want just a little more theta, like the Mozart music, to give you that relaxed studying. Or when you're in flow, you've got a lot of beta and slow beta going on, but you've got some good theta just keeping you just like in that relaxed, not that over like I got to get this done kind of stuff, but just you're like your whole passion is on, and it helps. It's like part of the dance it does. Okay. And but if you get too much beta, like if your anxiety kicks in, then you can have too much beta, and that can prevent you from having focus. That's like sometimes you can focus, but if you have 4 cups of coffee, it's real hard to stay focused, and so a lot of what they call the ADD, ADHD behaviors where you can't stay focused, or you have you're going to do multitasking but getting nothing done. Those are because you don't have enough beta and slow beta dancing together. Okay. And you may have too much delta or theta. And I get people, and I get really good at describing to them whether they're like driving to California going 25 miles an hour or 45 miles an hour. Okay. And it's like you're going to get there. It's just how much arduous work is it? And then sometimes I might put an analogy, your tires are low. It's like how, and I use that sometimes for the brain and people are like, oh my God, you've got me. And the other one, if you're having a lot of problems, if you're really bright and you're having a lot of problems with focus or attention, or you feel like you're missing things, you start like trying to look around going, what? Because you're missing something, and that produces more beta and the high beta to try and figure it out, but you're not getting it because you're just anxious. You're not seeing the clues. You just worry and you're not processing. And so when the high betas kick in like that, and that's part of the ADHD, the brain doesn't know it. It says, thank you very much, I've got this. So you want the brain to start going, oh, wait, this is high beta. I need to give more theta or more delta even a little bit to bring that high beta down. And I need to have the betas working better so I can pay more attention. Now, there can be good things like if you have a lot of ADD and you're used to multitasking, I don't like the not closure, but what I can do is I can still have 3 or 4 things going on and come back to it and not be stressed anymore because there's a lot of things in the mix. So I have an office with 5 rooms and 3 or 4 people going on, but I can stay focused on each and what I'm doing with my staff and not be fretting or worrying, So you can use things as a tool in your tool bag, just like if you need to hyper focus sometimes and you've got that, you don't lose that ability. But if you're a hyper focuser and somebody needs you to get ready to go to the dentist, or a spouse needs help with getting dinner or doing dishes, you want to be able to pattern interrupt that or get your alphas and your thetas to break in and say, wait, we got to do this. and not have you be grumpy because you're having to transition when you don't want to. Transitions are very hard for a lot of people, and that's because of that. They have either too much alpha and not going to beta, or sometimes they can't bring in some alpha and slow beta. Am I talking too much or?
I mean, look, it's as if you are speaking directly to me.
Oh,
So
cool. Well, it's
I'm very
coming from
appreciative.
neurofeedback.
Yes, HIPAA be gone. We're just going to go right with
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
There's a lot happening here. The one story you talked about, being in a coma. I do watch General Hospital, and Lulu Spencer just came out of a coma.
There you go.
So her brainwaves are a different place. The question I have is then, so you know this, right? You know this about different people, and alphas, and betas, and deltas, and thetas. What are the services you can offer to help make improvements for people's lives at Madison Brain Center?
Okay, so with neurofeedback, I have two different systems. One, I can put a cap on your head like this, and it's tight fitting, put a lot of goop in these 19 holes, and take readings of your brain waves 5 times with your eyes open, 5 times with your eyes closed, and get a report about what your brain waves are actually doing in that moment. And then in that report, it also shows you, and I show you and I go through it with you, but it also gives me ideas based on statistic. They call it Z-scoring with 500,000 other people, and a ton of them are in your age group. What would be the best protocols to do? And in that system, I will tell it to reward certain behaviors, certain brainwaves, and discourage others. And if the brain is doing that in the areas that I've got sensors, then the screen gets brighter and brighter, the one you're looking at. If it's not doing it, in the degrees it's not doing what I'm programmed in, it'll get darker and darker. So it may go light and dark a little bit or light and dark a lot. And as it does that, it's doing it in 1/30th of a second or 1/50th of a second real time. So as your brain is watching this, it's getting patterns of what it's doing. And it's also trying to fix to get bright, because brains like puzzles, and it learns how to use its brain waves better. And then you just keep doing it to reinforce it. Okay. And that system I use is called New Mind. And but I can also do symptom based with that system, but that's a good way to use a lot of science. Then I have another system called the Othra method, which is sort of a very low frequency method. If anybody wants to look these up, that's why I'm specifically saying the names. But that one, I put the sensors on your head and I determine the areas based on a lot of things. Is it more emotional directed trauma that's the primary driving force, is the emotional intensities and anxieties, or is it more the physicals, like if you had a lot of asthma and physical symptoms and autoimmune systems with your stress and anxiety, then I would use that one first to try and bring it down. I may use that one totally, or I may use a mixture. Okay. And again, we put sensors on the head, it reads it, and the brain starts making its changes. I also work with the vagus nerve. So people have a lot of anxiety, their vagus nerve is off, okay? And this years ago, 10 years ago, I figured out that if I put near infrared lights on the vagus nerve, and we have near infrared lights that are a very expensive system that runs some frequencies on them, like that are related to the earth frequencies, but other ones for healing the tissues and muscles, or athletes use them. And I put it on the vagus nerve. So if I'm telling the vagus nerve how to settle down and teaching it how to settle down, this nerve that goes along the back of your spine, along the sides, and earlier or later at the same time, in the same session, I'm working with the brain waves. It's like I'm working with a large portion, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, to get them to work. And one of them is not pulling each other out. And it has a big 1-2 punch, especially we work a lot with trauma. We can work with PTSD. And the lights that I use for vagus nerve, people have been talking about for years. They use them on neuropathy to help people with neuropathy from diabetes, which is nerves that are dying, come alive. And I just switched it to the biggest nerve of the body. And a lot of times when people have a lot of anxiety and stress, they have a lot of issues going on with their stomach, their guts, their headaches, because all of your cranial nerves are attached to that longest nerve in your body, and all your organ nerves are attached to it. So if you can get that long nerve to settle down and work more effectively, it helps your whole neurophysiology. I also have been doing a body of work called Brain Gym Neurokinesiology for like over 30 years, where I help and work and teach the arms and legs and ears and eyes all to work together as a team. So normally you can never say that neurofeedback helps dyslexic, except that I've been working with dyslexic for 30 years with this other body of work. And part of the problems that people got more dyslexic issues with is their brains were dysregulated when they were learning how to crawl and walk and do things. And if I can speed up their brain and getting their brain working better, and at the same time in the same session or the same 6 weeks or whatever, get their arms and their eyes working together. So like if you have to read, your arms and your eyes, your hands and your eyes have to work together. If you're an athlete, you have to have your arms, your legs, your eyes, everything all work together. And you may be an okay athlete, for peak performance, you really have to nail that down, the teamwork. And I can do that kind of work. I also do sometimes people have auditory processing issues. So they're going through a lot of speech therapy, or they can't talk as well, or they mumble, or they stutter. And stuttering, we do a little with, not a lot, but we put this thing on that vibrates on your ears. And we do the brain gym. And we usually do it after the neurofeedback, because then the brain is working more effectively and we create new neural networks. So I work on a lot of levels with that. I got to plug in, I guess. Sorry. I thought I was plugged in, but it didn't work. Wait,
This is too fascinating. We need you here. Yes, please plug in. Stay current.
Sorry,
but as you're plugging in,
and we also laugh, and we also refer. I have somebody here that does something called tremoring, so that they can it will help their brain do better. Okay, and we do this TRE tremoring, which allows for what's the thing here, which allows for the body to get rid of lactic acid and stressors like that, and it's pretty profound actually. So
wow. I mean, I gotta say, Cathy, I mean, this is impressive. Can you able to share, obviously, not naming any names, but are you able to share success stories that you've had with your clients that have really improved their life?
Just a second. Sorry.
Yes. Totally.
I honestly thought I was plugged in, but I wasn't. I apologize.
Look, we all got to be plugged in these days.
Okay.
We totally understand it. I can, if you want, I could just sing us a song while we're waiting.
I got to get you on speaker again. Hi. Oh, well.
Take your time. Are you back with us?
Do this here just a second. I touched my speaker, I think.
I've done that before. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, the volume cannot be lowered. Okay. Oh, I touched my volume button. That's it. Okay. There. Now we can do this. Am I talking?
All right, we're in. So are you able to share some success stories of people that have been able to really have their life positively impacted from your work?
Yes. So one of them is an 8th grade boy who came here with a lot of behavior problems, just would throw temper tantrums and have a lot of issues. Okay. And he was reading at 2nd grade level, and he was really trying, and he had had a lot of early trauma in his life. Okay. We did a bunch of neurofeedback and brain gym. We got him reading at 8th grade level. And even when he graduated at high school, he was, he stopped coming here about his sophomore year, freshman, sophomore year, but he still stayed up. He graduated. This was a child in 8th grade that I have a lot of kids that are told they're never going to graduate. Their parents are told, or they may, and we get them graduated. It's like their brains are working better. But he's now married. He now has a child that he's being very responsible for. He's conscientious. He's kind. He doesn't get all triggered. And if he does, he gets like advice or finds people to talk about too. And again, some of these skills were taught to him, but he couldn't do it. Okay. My favorite, so then I have another favorite of somebody who came in and wanted to do neurofeedback for a little anxiety. And this was a professor who had heard about it and wanted to try it. So we started doing some neurofeedback, and she had a book she was writing. And she hadn't been writing it for a long time. And all of a sudden, it was on her to-do list. It's not like she wasn't, she was just on this to-do list and she hadn't been getting to it. And she was starting to write with it. She all of a sudden was writing. It's like, and again, it was like all of a sudden, you know, it was like it put the pieces together. But my favorite part about that is that there was a job interview that she was an imminent college, like one of the top 5 colleges in the country. Because I got to be careful what I say. Okay. One of the top 5 colleges of the country wanted her to interview for a position. And she just couldn't deal at the time with filling out the application and going through the process. And, you know, so but they didn't fill it. And in the, you know, and this is like 10 or 11 sessions of neurofeedback. And they didn't fill it. And she came in one day and she goes, I got to tell you this. You wouldn't believe this, but nothing has changed in my outlook in my life. I'm still doing the same things. There's, you know, I've even added writing this. I'm writing more of my book, but I could deal with filling out this application. I may never take the job, but, you know, to get offered a job and they've wanted me to apply. I mean, their hiring committee went after this woman. And the first time around, she could not deal with the application. It was too much on her plate. And now it was like, I'm going to put this on my plate, you know? I have miracles like that all of the time that are just the brain starts working. People, like I said, setting boundaries or saying no. I mean, it sounds really strange, but, you know, sometimes people can be very, good at manipulating other people to do what they want them to do, though, so they don't have to do it. And the people they're manipulating can be very stressed by saying no, especially if that person gets really grumpy at them or do things or there's a reaction. And when people do neurofeedback, they may need a little coaching, but the saying no's or setting boundaries start happening. I had a mom come in for neurofeedback for, I think, anxiety. And at one point, 3 or 4 sessions in, she talks about a daughter that was sort of really, she didn't have a lot of nice things to say about her daughter's attitude towards her. They were pretty cruddy words. And, you know, an 8th or 9th grade daughter, and it was really hard. I don't know if anybody's had those experiences with their kids. She got her kid, I just said, bring her in. She got her kid to come in. And they now go on long car rides and talk. Her daughter's doing better in school and enjoying herself. And this was like a peak performance thing. It wasn't, I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but, you know, the girl noticed something in school, but it's head injuries and concussions. All of a sudden, people can think they can prioritize their time at work. And many times people go home and are more available in their relationships and who they are. And a lot of times the people who come to see me can be tired and grumpy and in relationships. And they have a lot more options when they're tired. And grumpy isn't necessarily one of them. You know what I mean? It's, you know, you find your selflessness that you need to be in that relationship, or it's there again. I mean, it's always there, but it's like there's so many tools that we're trying to use that we've learned, but it's like they're on the top in the cupboard above the refrigerator with bases in front of it, you know, and crock pots. And when you do neurofeedback and you tune and train the brain, it's like a lot of times all of a sudden you're just doing them. Sometimes you need to be coached a little bit if you haven't been taught them or you haven't looked at them, you know. But you can say, let me think about this, or I'll have to get back to you on that. And it's with grace and ease. You don't feel that, oh my God, I just ruined the whole world feeling in your gut. So
Absolutely. I mean, it's on, you know, all these success stories. How do our members, DMI members, connect with Madison Brain Center to see if this might be an option for them or get it to other family members? How can we connect?
They call me up 608-467-7916. We're on the internet. You can fill a file off. You can, you know, we're at 2001 West Broadway. You can always stop in and see what we do. Like almost 90% of my clients, if I say, do you mind if somebody sees what you look like doing neurofeedback? They'll say, oh yeah. Because if you just sit there and watch TV with wires on your head and the screen goes light and dark and your life changes, and especially if you're a high level, really proactive person who's aggressively worked on your self-actualization or your sales pitches, all of these things to become better. And it seems like every day you're struggling at keeping those in place. It takes the struggle away. I mean, it sounds strange, but it's such a cool thing.
Well, Cathy River, we are so excited that you joined us today. Cathy is our fearless leader, the owner of Madison Brain Center. But Cathy, we're not quite done.
Okay.
We've got a little treat for you. We're going to play our Fast and Furious 5. Also, maybe some just whatever your feedback that comes into your mind, not neurofeedback, but just whatever the first thought comes to your mind.
Do we
let
have
us
one
know.
more minute?
Questions about downtown. What's
Can
that?
I say one thing that's really important to me?
Cathy, absolutely.
Okay. So when people have head injuries or have had concussions or something, and later in the day, it's like they get more overwhelmed and tired, put an eye mask on for 3 to 5 minutes and give your brain a little nap, even if you can't take one, by just covering your eyes. And if anybody wants to talk to me about that, that's one of the most powerful things you can do for recovering from head injuries is put eye masks on and block out all lights. Ear masks are even better. Ears blocked too, but if you can't, do that. And feel free to talk to me about it because it's real hard for the brain to heal. Even if the eyes are closed, there's a lot of light that comes through and it's still reacting to it. So now ask your Furious 5.
All right, hold on though. No, I got to go on a different tangent. I have not had a traumatic brain injury, so I'm not.
Okay.
It's not apples to apples. But I'm someone that I have attention issues, right? I mean, the community knows that. One of the things that finally calms me down is honestly taking a nap.
Yes.
In my office with this net.
Yep.
Set an alarm, 10 minutes, the alarm never goes off. It gets me focused. I can work and transition between networking event to, say, working on a budget, right? Something that takes more time. So yes, I'm coming in to see you, Cathy.
Come in to see you. You will love it. You will really love it.
I would love hanging out with you. I don't think, I want the probes, and that sounds like a sci-fi a little bit too. I'm very interested in that.
That's why I changed my whole life. I got to figure out a way to get, because it sounds so weird, but it's like, you just got to do it, Okay.
You too.
Fearless 5.
Right. Fast and Furious 5. Here we go. What's your favorite fact or tidbit about the human brain?
If you laugh, whether there's anything funny in front of you or not, if you just go, not only will you release endorphins, you will switch on your brain for learning. It is one of the most powerful things you can do. The brain can't tell at all whether there's anything funny out there.
If it's real or not.
Just laugh. And if other people are grumpy, just laugh. I once was in a room of over 200 police officers and people with trauma or whatever. And I started laughing and I got all but one person in the room to laugh.
I love it.
And they were all in a different mood. And you could tell the ones that had been to my seminar after my seminar and the ones that hadn't through the whole conference, through the whole hotel. All right, next.
Where's your favorite place in downtown to decompress or relax?
Well, I can be a people watcher. So sometimes it's on the square. But my favorite thing is to find a street musician that's playing. Like I went to the concert, the Christmas concert, and outside is this it's not a xylophone. I'm not sure what they're called, but it's like that.
Know the guy very well. Yes.
And it echoes. I mean, it echoes. You can hear it a block away. And it brings music and drumming are good things for the brain. But it brings joy. I tip him. Anytime there's street musicians, I used to be married to somebody who's a musician. But I tip them well because
love it.
And sometimes they played in parking ramps and the echo, so I find the musicians, and we have that thing every year where you have musicians on street corners and in people's backyards.
Make Music Madison. Yep.
Yeah. That's, people should mark that on their calendar and have adventures with friends going and finding different musicians in different places.
Cathy, you know it's the largest one-day music event of its type in the world, right? This in
Right.
Paris.
It's
It's
incredible. I
Make
mean,
Music Madison, always on the summer solstice. All right.
yeah.
What's your favorite nature area in downtown?
Nature area, the lake. So anytime I can position myself so I can see or be by the lake, you know, Memorial Union is incredible, but I also like some of the buildings that have, if you get invited by somebody and they take you up to
Sure.
their community room on the top and you get to go look at a lake. I love the lakes and,
I
sitting
love
by
it.
the lake. So, you can't go wrong with the lake view. Um, and again, also watching kids at concert on the square or watching people, but the lakes,
I love
you
it.
know.
All right. What's your favorite place to shop in downtown?
It would have to be like I like art gallery shops, so the one at the Overture, or I'm a foodie, so we keep getting new food places, but I really like when you can go in somewhere and look around, and even if you don't have much money, so like the I don't know what they call them now, but like the head shops, or the places where they have little bitty gifts. Sometimes they're real expensive, but you can all around, and there's like quite a few on State Street, and you can just have fun playing in them, you know. So
Absolutely. All right. Last question. What's your favorite thing about living and working in Madison, Wisconsin?
the people, I mean, we are so blessed. We have so many good people and bright people and people who are really committed. I mean, it's a little different because of Uber, but it's still the same Madison. I mean, there used to be more per capita PhD taxi cab drivers than anywhere else in the world. You know what I mean? And everywhere you
100%.
go, there's stuff. I mean, yeah, it's like, so I think that's like one of my favoriteest things. I can always find people and places to do. And if you want to volunteer, my God, there's like 3 million. I mean, if you're feeling like, oh, I want to do something for my community, there's 3 million things. I mean, every year there's like, what is it, a couple hundred new social groups that are 501c3ps that open up, but you cannot get a better, more organized kind of fun place to find a volunteer place you can be, and give some of your time.
I love it. Well, Cathy River, owner of Madison Brain Center, thank you so much for joining us today. I know I learned a ton. We're so excited for all that you're doing for our community and trying to make all of us better human beings. Thank you, Cathy, very much for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much. You have a great life.
I like that. You have
I
a
do that.
great
Well,
life
why stop it
too.
again? Oh, can I mention one thing really quick?
Yes, of
I'm going to
course.
be at the Black Festival Market at the Orpheum Theater.
Awesome.
It's this Saturday, the 14th, at 2 o'clock to 6. And there's going to be a lot of Christmas things, activities for kids of all ages, face paint. That was what we were talking about before you came on. That's why I want to mention it. But it's a great, great family or single event. But people can come talk to me. I'm just going to be there with my materials, but they can also come and look at the incredible things that people have to buy and to sell and to share. And Santa's going to be there too. So if you didn't get to see Santa,
I mean, nothing ever wrong with that. And thank you. Honestly, thank you for encouraging people to come downtown. We appreciate it.
um,
Cathy, thank you very much. We are so thankful for you joining us today on the Downtown
well,
Madison
thank you.
Happenings podcast. Hopefully, we'll see you all soon downtown. Thank you for the support. We'll talk to you
Bye
soon.
bye.